So I'm going to quickly show you how to make this wavepool using the Niagara Fluids sample, and also how to bring this into Sequencer and render it out. As Epic states in the plugin description, I found this to be still very experimental. The simulation takes a lot of video memory, and there were a few issues I couldn't resolve. I will talk about the limitations as I go as well. Firstly, let's enable the plugin. Go to Edit, Plugins, search Niagara, and enable the Niagara Fluids plugin here. I'm going to enable the movie render queue as well, but I end up not using it. You will see what I mean in a bit. Now restart the engine. I'm repurposing the third-person template for this, but you can use any map you want. However, your map has to have collisions in order for this to work, and any object you want the water to interact with must have collisions as well. Also, I don't recommend making the water pool size too big or too small for performance reasons. I initially thought about making a proper scene with a more realistic background for this video. However, I quickly found out that it wasn't going to be possible because of the issues I'm going to talk about a bit later. So for now, I decided to keep the map bare bones and focus on the water sim itself. Now I'm going to select all the meshes I've thrown in this area, and in the details panel, search tag. Under actor, advanced tags, hit the plus sign to add a new element. Enter collider, all lowercase. This is case sensitive, so double check that you've entered it correctly. Now all these meshes have the collider tag and will interact with the Niagara water. I'm just going to make this pool a bit longer. In contents, I'm going to make a new folder and name it Wave Sim. And in this folder, I'm going to right click, go to Niagara System, select New System from a template. Scroll down to 3D Liquids. Select Grid 3D Flip Pool and click Finish. I'm just going to name this Wave Sim. Now, if you double click on the Niagara system you just created, you can see how it is set up. I believe this first emitter is for the water, and second one is for foam and bubbles. We're just going to change a few parameters in this foam emitter. So lifetime minimum to 1, maximum emit vorticity to 1.2, minimum emit vorticity to 1. You can play around with the vorticity values and find the number you like, but I found numbers under 10 usually worked better. Opacity multiplier to 0.7, scale curve to 1.3. Hit compile and save. Now back in our viewport, drag the Niagara system into the pool. You can see right away we need to change the size. Never change the scale of this sim with the pivot or scale. You can move it and rotate it, but moving it upwards off the ground is not a good idea either. Like I've said, it's experimental and very easy to break, so handle it with care and love. I'm not going to touch the Z axis. I'm going to reposition it only with the X and Y axis. Then in the details panel, go to World Grid Extents. This is where we will change the size of our sim. While changing the size, the sim might disappear, but don't panic, it will come back once you dial in a reasonable proportion. A rule of thumb I found was that the sim can't be too elongated or too thinned out. So keep that in mind as you resize the sim or even when you're planning the scene. Here you can see once I bumped up the water height, the sim is showing up again. Now I will just fine tune the size so it roughly fits with the edges. You heard me talk about a performance set before, but if we check the stats, we're currently sitting at about 8.5 milliseconds. That's hardly anything, right? But as you can also see, our sim is still very low res. Let's try raising the resolution of our sim. Click on the wave sim. In the details panel, change the particles per cell to 16. Then go to num cells max axis. I'm going to first try changing this number to 128. Now it's at about 12 milliseconds. Still not bad. But maybe we could try higher. I'm going to try 256. And now it's suddenly all the way up to like 38, 40 milliseconds. I pretty much don't have anything else in the scene and I am at my limit with my machine. I have a 3080 in here for your information. Also, one other very important factor is the engine scalability settings. So as you can see, I had my settings at epic. If I change this to cinematic, the sim disappears and I get this error message. This may be different for you depending on your PC, but epic setting was as far as I could push it. Now we need something that will push the sim and make the wave. I'm going to add a simple sphere, place actors, shapes, sphere, and resize and position it like so. I'm going to make it black just because. And most importantly, like the other objects as before, in the details panel, search tag, under actor, advanced, tags, add new element and name it collider, making sure it's all lowercase. And now if you shove the sphere like this, it interacts with the sim and now we have a wavepool. I'm just going to increase the Z extent so that the wave can go higher. So you can have a lot of fun with this. I spent a good hour just pushing water and admiring. And just testing slightly different numbers in the parameters for foam. Now, to put the scene into a sequence and render, I'm going to click on the slate icon up here, add a level sequence. I'll just make a new folder called SEQ and save it as wavesim001. And in the world outliner, find our wavesim and drag it into our sequence timeline. We're also going to find our black sphere in the outliner and drag it in as well. First on our wavesim, click on the add new track, click on Niagara component, click add new track on the Niagara component, and up here click on Niagara system lifecycle track. I'll just make my sequence a little bit longer. And with our sphere, I'm going to add a key to its current position and move the sphere along the x-axis and add another key after a couple of seconds. And add another key quickly after the second one so that the sphere is out of the way when the wave comes back. Now the sphere is animated and will push the water at the start of our sequence. Now we have a functional sequence in Sequencer. However, the sim is still working in real time, which is fine if you don't really care about it working with other animations. But if you need the water sim to move respective of the timeline, you can change this. Right click on the red lifecycle track here, go to properties, and in age update mode, change this to desired age. Now you can see my wave is not real time, but works with the timeline. Just keep in mind if your sim resolution is quite high, scrubbing through the timeline will be laggy and slow. Now I'm going to add a camera to my sequence so I can control the point of view and apply some animation so it follows the movement of the wave. And that's pretty much it. Setting up the water, setting up collision objects, and making them into a sequence. Now it's time to render. So naturally, for better quality, I tried rendering this using Movie Render Queue. I tried multiple times with different settings, and the water sim just appeared blank in all of them. So I had to use the legacy one. To use the legacy movie capture, click on the three dots next to the slate icon here. Change it to Movie Scene Capture Legacy. Click on the slate icon to bring up the window. I had my image output as EXR, resolution at 1080, and most importantly, I disabled cinematic engine scalability and cinematic mode. And finally, I could render with the water. You can also do this with landscapes. So here I built a pool with the landscape sculpting tool and add the same Niagara water example and resized it accordingly. Only difference with landscapes is that you should enable landscape collisions in your wavesim. So click on your wavesim, in the details panel scroll down to landscape collisions, allocate your landscape as the source landscape like so. Setting up interactive objects and making a sequence is exactly the same as before. So I was kind of disappointed when I couldn't recreate my local surf break with this simulation. However, it was really fun to experiment with. Hopefully when it becomes more performance friendly in the future, we will be able to utilize it in more meaningful ways. But this is just my thoughts after just playing with this for a few days. If you know any solutions on optimizing this or ways to make this look better, please let me know in the comments below. I will be all ears. Thank you for watching.